Welcome to the next part of Tr6 engine rebuild. So on this part, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the lower pan, the oil pan, the sump, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to take out the pistons as well. But before we get to that, I'm going to take off the timing chain and the timing wheel here. So these always end up with a little tab here that, if it's full of crap, you'll never notice it, you'll never see it. So just a little tab that falls down. The whole point of it is to stop the screw from loosening up. So it's you have to sort of tap it flat. Oops. That's one of those tabs that, to be honest, once you use it once, you never use it again. Now, another thing I'll say is, when you take these out, although the tab is gone, you take a timing chain wheel off. These ones are a little, well actually he removed these. These actually should have a little collar on them. Just the length of it. So obviously somebody's replaced them. I was going to say, usually you have a little collar. And if you do, because they're a certain length, is to screw them back into your cam and make sure you don't lose them. But yeah, they're only, like, remember as well, these are usually all just fine thread nuts. You can get them at any Home Depot, Home Hardware, you can get them in any there. Most of them have it. I'm not saying every single one has it, but most of them have it. Now, the crankshaft itself. In an ideal world, it'd be great to take this off, but there's a good chance it's not going to move. What you really need for this is a bearing puller. So there is the little one, that the three-way one. It's pretty cheap. You can get, and you can put it over and pull the whole thing, which is pretty good. You just basically put it behind this socket and it'll pull the whole lot because there's no gap in there. I'm just going to see if it moves. I doubt it's going to move. I doubt I'm going to get any money. Yeah, you know, I'm not going to bother. I have a big ass bearing puller. I'm not going through all that, just take this off. I'll just go get the little small one, which mine unfortunately broke. I was using it on something, I overstressed it and I snapped it. So I'll take that off. There's no rush or panic on that just yet though. Alright, so what I will do is, now I have the timing chain out, I just want to be able to move this free as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip the engine over. So on this one, hopefully there's no more oil left. I already cleaned it, flipped it over, but just in case. Yeah, oh god, look at all the oil. Gee! Oh dear. I think it's a little late to be getting an oil pan at this stage. I don't think I've anything to put in it. Hang on. Oh. No, it's way too long. Wouldn't mind. I turned it over already and not a bit came out. And now I do it now and it absolutely annihilates the floor. Now, lucky enough, I put the moving carpet down. So I don't know if I'm going to catch any more of this, to be honest, because it's sitting right on the bar. I don't think I'm going to get any more of this. So make no. Try to put something else under. So the cloth, lucky enough, the moving cloth will take the brunt of it. I guess I won't be using this blanket again. I wonder where it came from. I already had this flipped upside down. Oh. Alright, let's flip it over again. There's no avoiding at this stage. My fingers. It's just heavy because all the weight. I took the head off all the way. Look, it's barely dripping now. Alright, well, besides that, what does that? We're going to remove the sump. So again, these are 1/2 inch. As you can see, the bottom is filthy. And again, I'm going to cheat by using an impact drill because there's so many of them. Now, usually I don't keep these. I can see the standard washers here, but they really should be lock washers. So if you're doing to put lock washers on the set, there's nothing wrong with putting these on, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it, but lock washers are what they should be. This is almost stopped dripping out of me. Thank God I put the moving blanket down. Wasn't expecting that. A drip, a couple of drips, yeah, but not expecting that much. Judging by the sound of that, that was awful tight in there. Alright, now I've done off, I can back here, just in the corner, there's a little gap so you can just get that in there. So you're not tapping in here, like you're not putting it in here and banging it with a chisel. Right into the back here. I'll show you when I take this off. And the washers are all gonna fall. And that's the sump off. Now it's important when you take the sump off before you clean it to actually inspect in here. Because what you want to do is you want to look for anything that doesn't belong in here. Like I see a string in here, and I don't know what it is yet. That looks it's a piece of a rubber seal or a piece of silicone. Either way, have a look in here, because again, this is just sump. If anything is going wrong in the engine and you see loads of it looks like the Milky Way and it's sparkly, you know there's metal shreds in there and something's going wrong. So again, before you clean it, have a look at it and see what's in there. You may find stuff that's not meant to be in here, and it gives you an idea, well, again, if something was going on in the engine. Because then, if there is, you'll know, hey, something's going on, I need to look into this a bit more and find out what was causing the problem. Otherwise, if you don't, there's a possibility you could just change a part and then you'll never fix the issue. Anyway, sorry, I was saying, just here. So the way you can see where the shape of it is, the way the sump goes this way, and right here is a gap. That's a good gap to get a screwdriver in and just push up and it'll pop your sump off. Alright, let me just, I need to wipe my hands first. Even though I'm wearing gloves, I still have oil all over them. So what we're looking at here is our crank and our oil pan. I'm going to turn the camera. Hopefully you can see. So here we have a crankshaft. We have our oil pump here, which we're going to take out. I'm pretty sure I didn't bring the spanner for it, so I'm going to use this instead. I know, I should have brought it. I thought I brought everything across, I guess I didn't. Now, this is your oil filter. What you want to do is have a look. Sorry, this is your oil pump. The filter end is in here. And again, have a look and see what's in there. Do you see bits of metal stuck in there? What's actually stuck to that? Because anything that's down the pan, this is supposed to filter it before it goes through and up, and then when it comes back down. to stop any crap or any boards or anything like that getting up and then up further. You can hear the tap is falling out, which is fine. I know, I'm too lazy to walk across and get the spanner free. Because I brought in everything to get these off, and of course I forgot about the oil pump on. Now again, with this, you shouldn't have to change it. Shouldn't have to. The only reason I change it is if I find anything going on in here. So usually once it's working, it's usually fine. But you never know. You never know. So we'll take it out. We'll, again, have a look inside and make sure everything's not cracked. This mesh can come off. And again, you want to look and see, is there any what shrapnel is stuck here? And that you should almost be able to see, because that's just a pipe, a hollow pipe all the way down there. So you should be able to see if it's clogged or anything. So again, this just pops off. Let's give it a wiggle and pop out. And that's our shaft that goes on all the way to the bottom of the distributor, so it's all interconnected. And again, this is going to pop out. And we're going to inspect all in here, all in this when you clean it out. And again, check for any discoloration, but any scarring of the walls. And if it looks like it's scratched up in any way, shape or form, do not replace it, because obviously at some point then it ran dry. If this was all scratched up, somebody started it dry, which means he didn't allow the oil to get around the engine first before they started it up, which means it spun without any oil in it and it just scoured it. So again, little things to watch out for. Wipe my hands again, because I didn't know I'm wearing gloves. Now I have them out, what I can move on to now is taking out the pistons. So as we take them out, what we want to make sure is notice where they came from. So it's obviously marked 1 to 6, 1 being the front, working your way back to the back, which is here. So pretty straightforward that one is. A little bit my socks there. But there's a few things you have to make note of when you take them out. You can take them out in any order, whatever one is closest or sitting up. In this case, it's these before I start to turn it. And the more you take out, the easier it is to rotate it. If you don't put the nut back in the front, if you haven't put the bolt back in the front and use that to actually spin it, what you could do is, and I haven't tried it yet, but it's just an idea, is put the chain over here and just pull it like you pull a chain on a door, just to get the spin. So the more pistons you take out, the less friction, the easier it is to spin. Alright. Funny thing, this is too big. Go get another socket, because I thought I brought the right ones. No, guess I did bring it. It feels a little loose for some reason. Oh God. Ooh. It's on pretty tight. I'm going slow with it because it's on, seems to be on too tight. That was too hard to get off, because these all have torque settings. So again, somebody might have over torqued it. The one thing to remember with this is, and of course the Tr6 boys want to say is that, don't get mixed up. These don't actually have washers on them. Some people may put washers on them, they don't come with washers. You can put one on if you want, but they don't actually have washers on them. Again, it's metal on metal, but yeah, just remember that. I don't know, it just feels like someone didn't maybe just tighten these by hand, because they feel like they're hand tightened compared to torque tightened. The bolts don't have to go, these nuts, oh, so say bolts, can go anywhere. They're not specific to the actual casing themselves. So they're a little irrelevant. Where do you go? I need the extension. So I'm looking in here, but again, I'm watching out. I'm finding. Look at this. Hang on. Ooh, don't drop it. I don't know if you can see it. I'm at the camera, but that's literally a lump of silicone. Silicone with bits of metal in it because it's stretchy. See it stretching? I don't know if you can see it. And that was down the oil pump. Like I said, that's why I don't like silicone in the engines, because it always goes somewhere. And it's not that silicone is, don't get me wrong when I say this. Silicone is soft, that's fine. You say, yeah, it's soft, it's not going to go in and crunch up something, which it's not. The problem is though, it doesn't burn. So when it goes into solid state, it stays solid. And what it does do is clog. So it will get in somewhere and it will clog one of the veins for the oil. So you want oil getting around. So what if it clogs one of the veins, manages to work its way through? Oh, Jesus. Definitely not too tight. Shouldn't be that tough. What if it gets through one of the veins in your crankshaft for your oil for your bearing? What do you think is going to happen? It's going to clog that up. Oil won't get inside to your journal. It will dry out, bearing will give out, engine will blow, and that's it. It costs you a couple of grand, at least, for a different engine. So, again, it's a tiny bit of silicone, but you do have knock-on effects. My hammer. So just here, I'm going to give it a little tiny tap, just to ease on it. You could, again, like you think, you could put a little bit of a stick, or you could use this. Just tap it a tiny bit. Just don't go hard at all. There's nothing holding it. I guess so far I should be the pull by hand. Oh. Now I don't mind pushing it at the side, and the reason why is that yes, I'm pushing on the bearing, but I don't mind because I'm going to change it anyway. All right, we have this off, so let me show you something. You take it off. I look at the engine, and again, I think Elon said the same as well. It's two sides of an engine. There's a working side, and there's a exhaust side. So the exhaust side is obviously on one side where everything gets expelled and so on and so forth. The other side is the working side, which is, that's where your distributor is and your fuel and everything and so on and so forth. That's where it all goes through, right? I hope I said that right. This has a number on it. Hang on, with the camera the wrong way. You can see it has number 2 stamped on it. So they're always stamped here. So that's number 2 cylinder. Make sure you keep that. And the number always, it should match up. There should be a number here that it goes against. Obviously some of you might have wore this down. Oh, there it is there. So the number 2 there. But on this side, it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4. They're for your mains. But the point is though, where the number 2 is, the numbers match. The numbers on the number side. Alright? Or if you want to look at it, is this side here is the non-working side. So this is your basically your exhaust side. The numbers on the exhaust side. Alright? But again, take pictures of it when you come out. That's so on sport. The next one is the bearing itself. The bearings are hooked in. There's a little protruding piece, so you can only really go on one way. So this little protruding piece goes into that protruding piece. And what we're looking at is when we take it out, is we're checking to see any scores or damage on it. The other thing we want to make sure as well, and we check, is what numbers are stamped on it. So this one says 2022 SA. And it looks like it's oversized. Looks like, yeah, it's oversized. Because it has 010 on it. I know you can't see it with the camera. If you can see it. I'm trying to move it that you can see. But down the bottom there it says 010. That means it's an oversized one. That's the name's not. But what I'm looking at here, see the edges? Here's something important. See the edges here? See the way these show signs of cracking? That somebody's forced them in or something. Like there's one here, one here, one here. And even though I lifted it from the side, I shouldn't have done that. Because the way this is facing down, yeah, I done it from the side, but like, just be mindful of that. I can say I'll probably put some in there, but like you're looking for any damage to them, because that overall has a difference on the edge, because you want to make sure your bearings are not damaged. Because again, it shows what goes on. And keep an eye out for the colour. I mean, whether it's black scored, look for any scoring to see if it ever dried out. So that's number 2. Now to get number 2 piston out, I'm going to use the back of the hammer just to pop it down. I'm going to release it off the journal. The next bearing is going to swing around to me, and again I'm going to make sure they all match up. So it's important that they all match the same, because you don't want to have one. Somebody could have just put bearings in not known, and you have one standard and one oversized, and that makes a difference. So, and then once you have it out, all we're going to do is I'm going to tap it down, just push it down, just as far down as you can go. I'm using the back of the hammer because it's rubberized and it's not going to do any damage. I can keep all the way down, and you keep going as far as you can until basically, turn the hammer this way. Once the rings come out, it should pop out. There she goes. And that's the number 2 piston there. Now this engine wasn't firing on number 4, and I found out why, because there's a big chunk on over it, because I had a quick inspection. So to be honest, because one piston is gone, they're all going to go. I'm not going to put any of them in, because one has failed. To me, they all fail. So they come as a set. What I will keep is obviously the connecting rod down here, that will stay. I'll take that off and just change the head. But I'm looking at the top. I'm looking for, if I wasn't replacing them, if I didn't find that big piece of missing, I'd obviously clean it off. And what I'm looking for is any, you can have a pitting in the middle, which is fine when you clean it all off, is the pitting at the edges. You don't need pitting right around the edge, because that means it's allowing oil or something to come back in. You know, the ring should be working fine, should be. Just in case, I don't like any pitting along the edge, because again, that means you can leave scoring on the cylinder walls. So to me, if it has any chunks gone off the edge, it's gone. Simple as that. When you clean these off as well, if these are standard for the car, I will either say A or B, and that will match with the cylinder that's on the side. If they're more modern, I don't think they say, I think they say STD on it, funny enough, for standard size, or they give an oversized one, and it will actually be stamped what oversized it is. So just bear that in mind. Don't get rid of them yet, even if you are swapping them out, because you want to clean them. And make sure that the lettering of saying the side, it's A and B is a standard size. It's both standard, but there's a slight difference in it. And that you'll see that in the book. So when you measure to know whether you're in or out in size. But this should match as well. So if it's an A cylinder, it should be an A head. You can't, B is bigger, so you couldn't put a B in an A. But you could put an A in a B, theoretically. As long as the rings are good, it will fill in that little void. But just make sure you have the right ones in, because you don't want to have different sized. If that makes any sense. So always hang on to them until you're finished. And keep the numbers and letterings together. I know I'm sort of rambling on a little bit here. with the rest of them. 5. And again, I'm going to check that all the bearings match up. So that's oversized as well, that's fine. As long as they're all the same. Because you don't know, one could be a different size. For all you know, someone could have, hey, do you know what, this little sink? I'll put a oversized, or a bigger one, a bigger bearing, because the journal itself, you might have got the journal machine, but not all of them. So you could have just put a, hey, these are all, imagine these were all standard, and then they said, okay, well, this is a little, I'll have to machine this a small bit to take out a little bore, let's say, whatever's stuck in it, and then it needs an oversize, so they all could be standard and one is odd. So just check them all before you discard them, just in case. Because again, it's, don't get me wrong, like, you can't say what's happened to the engine before you had it. I'm not saying that done it, anybody ain't done anything bad to it, but maybe somebody didn't know. But you take a chance that, look, if you don't know, don't rely on it being correct. So that's number 5. This is pretty black. So you can almost see where the oil has been coming up and almost escaping all the way up. So the rings, that means that I'm not saying it's pretty oily inside. Look, especially the side. You can see it. So maybe a setup for a while, and the oil, the rings they didn't work obviously as good. But this one here has, you can see I haven't even cleaned it. Oh my knee. You can see big chunks in it here. Yeah. Right along here, right in my fingers here, there's big, as if somebody hit it with a chisel. It's big chunks, which means it looks like because of them chunks it's going to go, and it's not the mark because there's a little arrow there that always points towards the front of the engine. So it's not that. There's chunks going out here. So looks like this one was almost ready to fail as well. So now we need to turn the crank, which at least it's moving freely, which is good. All right, let's go remove some more. And if there's anything I left out, don't get me wrong. Jesus. Way too tight. If there's anything I left out I didn't mention, by all means, leave in the comments section if I left anything out that's important to everybody, because it is. The whole idea of this, all of this, is that if you do tackle it and you're doing it, that you cover as best you can, because so I'm looking at all bits of shrapnel along the block here. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So it's pretty dirty oil. It's hard to see because the oil is so black, but there's bits of everything in here, so something's going on. And again, it's about what level of cleanness or build you do. Like if this is clean as a whistle, hey, do you know what? I don't need to do this because it's pretty good. But once I see bits of chunks in there, this is going to get the deepest cleanses clean I could do, which is wash, flush, we'll sandblast it, we'll inspect it, make sure it's bone dry, because you want to know what's causing that shrapnel to begin with. For all you know, there could be a crack in the or a chunk on the wall, and you're doing all that work for nothing, because eventually you'll get up the ghost. So So the number 4 I took off, and oh, look at that. Wow. the piston fell right out of its own accord. Like just straight out. Check that out. Complete failure of the piston. So now, because I see that, now I know there's bits of metal. Look, it's all chunk, 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 and that's gone. Whatever's caused that to give up. And that's the sidewall. So obviously I'm going to check the cylinder, the liner, to make sure it's because this is scored. There's a good chance that this scored the edge of the wall. It's a good chance, and hopefully it didn't. Hopefully. But what I worry about is that I can actually see the piston is almost squished down, because I know the camera doesn't show it. But all this metal has to be somewhere. Where did it go? Now, that's the question I'm talking about. If you find something wrong, there's chunks of this metal missing. Where's it gone? It has to be in here somewhere. So where did it go? Did it get jammed in somewhere? Did it hopefully maybe crush somewhere and just be bits of particle and fine dust? Hence, like I said, if it looks like the Milky Way, there's bits of metal shards in there. Hopefully that's it. But other than that, there's chunks of metal somewhere in this engine that I need to find. So, I don't know if you can see it any better. Look at that, complete failure. And this didn't even hold in. As soon as I released the bearing, it boom, fell out itself, which you shouldn't do. You should not do. And this is the number 4. So, again, I need to check the bearings. Make sure they're right. Yeah, oversized, at least that's right. This one, the number 4, I don't know where the bearing went. Did it stay behind? I don't know where it went then. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. So it wasn't a bearing in it, that'd be serious. Yeah, at least I was saying. The good thing about what I'm looking at is at least the bearing itself shows no sign of major scoring, a little bit, but that goes to show, because I think debris has obviously gotten in there. So you can see there's a tiny bit here, there's a line all the way through. That's because the little fragment of metal obviously got in and just scored it as it went around. So again, that's important, because now I have to look at the journal on the crankshaft to make sure it's all good. Maybe you can get a bit of paper and just sand it out, as long as you stay within spec. Worst case then, we'll have to go out and get machined, and then we'll go up again. So we'll go up maybe to 2 tau or 3 tau oversized. So yeah, that's the importance of checking everything before it comes out. Don't just discard it. Check every single one. You can see what's going on everywhere. So with this engine, that was the reason why it wasn't firing, because I'd seen that chunk at the top, but I didn't think it was that bad. So, yep, he dropped it. Yep, oversized. That looks okay. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. The piston just fell out of its own accord. Just poof, off it went. Absolutely no pressure now. So I'm just checking as I take it out. I know I should really check afterwards, but again, I'm just checking the heads. Because one has failed, obviously I'm going to check the rest of them. One had some good chunks, so that looks like it could have been on the way. So again, never, if one is gone, take it that they're all gone. That's the best way to do it. Because you'll only regret it in the end. Oh, jeez. Now, what could have caused that? I don't know. There's a possibility. And if you have an idea, let me know. Let me know what you think it could be, because it's always see good ideas. I'll throw out a few ideas. One is the piston itself was not checked and put back in, and it failed. In other words, like they never changed the rings or anything like that, and it dried up and burnt. The second one is that these bearings are on too tight, and it put more friction. It didn't allow a better movement of the connecting rod, and just put pressure on the sidewall, and off it went. And decided that eventually would give up the ghost and overheated from friction, and gave up. Another one was the ring itself. The ring maybe of the piston rings, one of them failed and just got lodged in there, and just with the heat of the engine going, just cracked it. Or the last one could be that as well as the ring failing, that it was never put in correctly. Not just failing, but like when somebody put the piston ring in, because obviously this has been changed, that they put it in incorrectly and broke one of the piston rings as they put it in, or maybe took the chunk off the side of the piston, the crown, the head itself, as they put it in, and then just one thing led to another. That's okay. Alright, this one is showing some scoring. I don't know if you can see it. You can see a lot of lines in the middle, so that could be just from again shrapnel in there, or the lack of oil, which could be from bits of silicone floating around and jamming up all the canals. That's fine. Again, I'm just double checking that they all have the exact same bearing. Okay, this one. This is not chunks coming off it. Alright, so that's them all out. So, that's all the pistons out. Obviously, I'm not going to give a good inspection of the crank until I physically take it out, so I can actually take it around. I'm going to wash it off, give it a good clean. Obviously, I'm going to zoom out a bit. But I need to oil my hands. And now with a little less weight in it, not much. It's a little easier to get around. But I know more oil's going to come out because all where the oil oh God, turn. There we go. Where the oil pump was, there's obviously some residual oil in there, but I think I've done enough damage to the floor at this stage. So for that, so that's this part. So I can zoom out a bit more. Actually, I'll bring the whoop. There we go. So that's how we remove the pistons. And again, like the engine is filthy, so I can't really get too much into what's going on in here until I strip the last bits out of it, which is the crankshaft, the rear seals, the front plate, and obviously we'll take as much off the pedestal here as well for the distributor. So as I said, I refer to this as the working side of the engine because that's where everything happens, and then you have your exhaust on the far end where it all shoots out. So that's it for now. That's it for this part. Sorry, I'm just looking over because I'm trying to look for stuff because it's absolutely filthy and it's hard to see anything. Join me in the next part, and what we'll do is we're going to take out the rest of the pedestal. We'll take out the oil pressure switch. There is, hang on, let me show you. On the side, when we eventually clean it up, like where the oil goes. So as well as your oil feed, all along here, there's actually little screws. So, and we'll take these out as well. Be mindful, they're Allen keys, and we'll take all these out. Because again, when we go to clean it and flush it, we want to make sure we get all this out to make sure no crap stays in there. We're going to usher the pressure relief valve is going to come out, and you actually can remove this, the dipstick. It basically, it's more pressure that goes in there. But without bending it, you can get it out by putting the cloth in it and twisting it. It's up to you if you want to take it out. If it doesn't get in your way, then you don't have to remove it. And yeah, we'll take out the rest. Obviously, the back plate is going to come off, the front one, where the alternator goes, and we'll take out the crank as well. So, I'm off to Brits on the Lake tomorrow, so that's it for me today, other than cleaning up the mess. I'll get back on the next week, so whenever you're watching this, I mightn't tie up. And yeah, I'm going to clean up, and then hopefully I'll have my bearing puller, and I'll get the front socket off. So if you couldn't see it in here, it'll just go in behind, into the front, and I'll pull this whole thing out. So that's it. So thanks for watching. Hope it's educational on the way of what to look for when you're taking the pistons out. I do ramble on a bit, I know that. But yeah, it's just a mess of pistons on the floor now. But again, I'm just keeping the connecting rods, and everything else will be changed. So I'm not too worried. And then obviously I have to clean up a pile of oil on the floor. But again, any comments, questions, concerns, give me a shout, let me know. I'll try to help you out as best I can. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Again, it's always appreciative from me when people do. That's it, because it makes it look like I'm helping. So, by the way, sorry, just before I point out, that number 4 cylinder, what gave it away to me, and I hope you can see this, is right here. You can see that black line. So when the piston was sitting in there, I could see the chunk going off the edge, and I could see that black line, which means all the oil was just spewing from the bottom up and gathering up here. So all they're doing is mixing fuel with oil, and all you get is soaky, wet, gunky crap like here, and that's it. So that's how I figured out what was actually wrong with this engine. So I'm not saying that there's other stuff wrong, because obviously the silicone in here floating around, so that's another thing, that's its own problem. And yeah, so again, thanks for watching, appreciate it, and see you in the next part.